Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 276 Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube. Straight away you'll see that this is not the normal flat map that we usually play on, but I believe, if I remember right, this map is the Greek shore map. I haven't played on this map for years, and as you can see, it's a very hilly map, and that's probably one of the reasons why we don't play on it very much, because obviously with a hilly map you can get people that actually kind of hill camp. But we'll go into that a little bit later after I've introduced the team. Okay, our first teammate is RTW player Jack. A lot of you will know Jack, and he's bought the Rome Bruto faction, and he is the host of this battle. And as you can see there, I think he's got the bog standard 31k army, which is 14 infantry and 6 cavalry. Our next teammate is an RTW player who's called himself Goose, but is in fact RTW veteran Scorpion King Eshar, who has bought the Seleucid faction. If you notice there, I think he's got 11 pike units there. Let's have a closer look at them. As you can see, he's got 6 upgrades, so that's a gold attack, gold defense there, gold shield, gold attack. And just have a look at, once again, how long these Seleucid pikes are. Remember that Roman infantry have to fight all the way down those pikes to kill the man on the other end. So that's why we're quite reluctant to use Roman infantry head-on against pikemen. So those pikemen look pretty solid to me. Then I'd like to draw your attention to his archers. Now remember, the Seleucid archers are all short range, right? But I'd just like to draw your attention to the upgrades on these archers. Can you see he's put 9 upgrades? So these archers are fully upgraded. That's 3 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack. So that is a heck of a lot of upgrades to put on those archers, but he's made them as good as he can to give cover and fire to his big pike units, which are very susceptible to archer damage. So that's probably why he's put so many upgrades on them. And then let's have a look at the infamous Seleucid cataphract cavalry. And if you look here, he's got 8 upgrades on these cavalry, so that's 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack. That makes these cavalry extremely serious. And if we look closely, can you see that they're armoured from head to toe? That's a lot of armour they got on them, and that's why we say that they are the tanks of the ancient world. And when these cavalry get going, especially with those upgrades, they are difficult to stop. So to me, I think Scorpion King's put all his RTW years of experience into this Seleucid army, and it should be quite interesting to see how well it does against the great players that we're up against today, and fighting uphill. Okay, our next teammate is myself, Spartan Commander, who has bought this very old army. This is one of the oldest armies that I've actually got, and I very rarely bring it to the modern day battlefield because it's only got 12 infantry units, which I think are a little bit short of infantry for the modern day battlefield, but for some reason I decided to bring this army. Yes, a lot of the infantry have got experience stripes on, but whether that makes up for the lack of infantry, I guess only time will tell as we actually watch the battle. But as I say, it's an army I don't very often bring. As you can see, I've got 6 cavalry and just 12 infantry in this army, so it'll be interesting to see how well it does during the course of the battle. Right. Now, just going to show you the disposition of this map, and then I'm going to ask you a tactical strategic positioning question after this. Can you see how steep the hill is that we would be fighting up here against? This is why this map isn't used very often, because it obviously gives one team a big advantage over the other here. Now, do we want to fight uphill? Is that what we want to do? Bearing in mind that the uphill advantage in this game is enormous. Pilers travel further and do more damage, arrows travel further and do more damage, and cavalry charge from the uphill position have got a massive bonus on. So we can either attack uphill if we want, which is something that you try and avoid if you can, as I say, with a big advantage that they've got, or do we try and look for tactical positioning of our armies here? Because remember that, as I said, if the army up here on top of the hill, if we attack, they get all those advantages with the piler distance, the arrow distance, and massive cavalry charge bonus if we attack uphill. So let's just have a look at our options. We can either attack uphill, which is not really recommended. Newer players watching this, I wouldn't really recommend that. Or our team could come all the way down here where the ground's a little bit more level. Yes, there's still a gentle slope that they would have a slight advantage on, but it would be a lot better than attacking up that hill. So do you think our team should all fall back to this position and draw the enemy down to us. Yes, as I say, there is still a gentle slope to give them a bit of an advantage, but it's a lot more flatter than attacking up the hill. Or do you think we should grab the initiative? Do you think that we should be aggressive? Do you think we should look to try and maybe take the high ground if we can? If there's any chance, if the armies are spread right across those hills, and we got no chance of getting the high ground, because we'd be in that position where we're fighting uphill again. But if there's a chance that we might be able to grab that high ground, some of the high ground up there, maybe we should take that. So if you were in our team here, which position do you think you'd do? Do you think you'd take all your team back to that flatter area and try and get the enemy to come down to you? Is that's probably the prudent thing to do, and probably the cautious thing to do? Or if you get a chance, do you think we should try and run up these hills and try and grab some of the higher ground if we can try and avoid any of the enemy troops there? Grab the initiative, be aggressive, be positive. So to say, what do you think you would do if you were in our team? I think it'll be interesting to see what happens as the battle unfolds. And here is the other team. We have a Chimera clansman Tamahak, who has bought the Rome SBQR faction. And you can guarantee that the cavalry will be in the woods there that you can't see. They'll be hiding in the woods at the moment. Their next teammate is IOW Sparky, another good 31 player. As you can see, if you look at his cavalry formation there, see the two wedges at the front? So they actually open up enemy infantry, and then the block formation charges through. You don't see cavalry used like that much these days. And as you can see, he's bought the Rome Scipio faction. That looks like a pretty solid army to me. And the third teammate is an RTW player called Bliss. I think he's an old RTW player. He's been playing RTW for quite a long time, and as you can see, he's bought the Macedon faction. Let's have a look at his winged horseman cavalry, the companion cavalry there. Just have a look at the upgrades. 1, 2, 3, 6. It looks to me like he's got 8 upgrades. So he's got 2 experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack on these companion cavalry. So they're going to be pretty tough to look at there. But if you can you see the downhill advantage that these teams have got here? A very steep hill down to us now. It'll be interesting to see what our team's tactics are, and I think you'll find it quite interesting. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, at this stage of the battle, are we going to retreat down there with our team and let them come down to us on a flatter ground, or are we going to try and take advantage of the situation? Can you see this steep hill that we'd have to run up? But if you notice, there's no enemy troops in front of me on this hill. They've all moved over to the left. Can you see that? The Macedon troops have all moved over to looking up the hill, moved over to the left. So there's a high ground area there that maybe if we move fast enough, we might be able to snatch. The Scorpion King spotted it as well. I can see he's starting to move his units up there as well. So we're either going to be aggressive, grab the initiative and go for that higher ground, or we're going to pull back down to that lower ground. What do you think we should do? So you're in my position here. What would you do? Okay, with the enemy moving over to the left, let's try and grab that higher ground. Now, bearing in mind that both Scorpion King and myself are running uphill, so of course if you run uphill your troops are going to get tired a lot quicker, but there is a definite gap there in the end of their battle line that we might be able to grab the higher ground. If you notice, they're still moving over towards the centre, which is good for us. If they start moving across over here to the higher ground, they would cut us off before we could get up there. But we're both Scorpion King and myself are running our troops as fast as we can to grab this higher ground. You can see how steep the hill is that we're running up. So we're trying to grab the initiative, trying to get that strategic, tactical positioning right by grabbing this higher ground if we can. Right, can you see the Macedon general has spotted what we're doing? He's starting to bring his cavalry over to try and counter. Can you see Scorpion King and myself? Let's just pause the game for a second. As I say, I'm moving my army there. I want to take my cavalry up to the higher ground first so that I can try and neutralise any enemy cavalry that come across. Although that Macedon cavalry's got heavy upgrades on, so that'd be touch and go. Can you see the Macedon pikeman starting to run his pikes over here as well to try and cut us off? He's seeing what we're doing. His teammates are probably shouting to him, get over there quick, to try and block them. As I say, Scorpion King and myself spotted that straight away and moved for that position. As you can see, our teammate Jack, all the way down there, he's running his troops as fast as he can to get over to us. You can see exactly what we're doing. We've communicated to him what we're doing, and he'll try and get to us as fast as he can. Now the enemy troops, they got two choices here. They can either move up to the top of the hill to try and block us. If they want, they can start moving up to the hill to block us from getting up onto the high ground there. Or they can go and attack Blackjack, our ally, in a downhill attack onto him. So what do you think you would do if you were in their team? Race your army up to the top of the hill to stop Scorpion King and myself? Or do you think you would marshal all your forces together and go and attack Blackjack? But if you do that, if you beat him, you have then got to fight uphill against me and Scorpion King. So which do you think you would do? Go for the higher ground or go for Blackjack? Interesting question there. Let's say I'm running my army up as fast as I can. Scorpion's running his army up as fast as he can as well. Let's say I want to get my cavalry up there first to try and neutralise any enemy cavalry from getting up on top of the hill that would then charge down onto my advancing infantry. But as I say, that Mastodon cavalry, as we saw earlier, have got big upgrades. So I'm not sure whether I want to get into a cavalry fight with them, or although Praetorians usually do prevail. See Scorpion King really running those pikemen and his cavalry up there. Old Blackjack is running his infantry and cavalry up to here as fast as he can as well. If you notice, the enemy now have definitely decided they're going to come up to the hill. They're not going to attack Blackjack. They're actually running up to the hill now. They're going to try and block us from getting up onto the higher ground. Right, if you notice that my cavalry has managed to get to the top of the hill first, but if you notice, the enemy Scipii cavalry has come over to join the enemy Macedon cavalry there. So my 6 cavalry are up against 12 enemy cavalry there. As I say, there's a lot of high ground up here, still maybe to take. So I want to get up higher. I want any advantage I can against 12 cavalry. Right, if you notice, I've got a little bit of height there, and I've charged into that Scipii cavalry. I'm running my infantry up to try and help my cavalry as fast as I can. Let's just pause the game for a second. So as you can see here, I'm taking on those 6 Scipii units. But those really well upgraded Macedon cavalry are coming up the hill, probably to get a downhill charge bonus onto my cavalry. You can see Tamahak's SBQR cavalry coming across. You got Sparky's Scipii infantry coming across as well. Scorpion King's running his army up as fast as he can here, but it's going to be touch and go. If my cavalry lose here and their cavalry gets on top of this hill, then they'll have a downhill cavalry charge onto our infantry and probably rout us. So it's imperative that my cavalry manage to hold, and if I can get my infantry up there in time, then that will be very important there. Right, as I say, can you see the Macedon cavalry went up above my cavalry there to get the height advantage, and then get the downhill cavalry charge into the flank of my engaged cavalry. I turned some of my cavalry units to face those Macedon cavalry units as they came in, so it wouldn't catch them on too much of a surprise. But if you notice, one of my cavalry units is routed already, so that's knocked me down to 5 cavalry units. As you can see, I'm running my infantry up as fast as I can, but they're probably going to be very tired and probably in no fit state to fight under normal conditions. Right, let's just pause the game for a second. As you can see here, you've got the Macedon cavalry, and you've got the SBQR cavalry and the Scipii cavalry there ready to charge in. Scorpion King SR's cavalry is moving over here. You can see that Sparky's infantry has intercepted Scorpion King's pikemen there, and is going to attack them. Blackjack is running his troops as hard as he can to get up to us, but if you notice, the SBQR enemy infantry and the Macedon infantry are approaching, and as I say, the blue Scipii infantry has intercepted Scorpion's pikes there. So it's this actual little part of the battle here could be pivotal to who's going to hold this hill. With all that cavalry now primed and ready, it's like the hammer's been cocked on the rifle with all that cavalry above us. They're just ready to pull the trigger, and down all that cavalry comes like a deluge into us. I've turned some of my infantry to face the threat of that cavalry hit, and if you see, Scorpion King's brought his cavalry up. We got Blackjack's cavalry here as well. And the enemy are just positioning their cavalry as let's just pause again for a second. The enemy are just positioning their cavalry there to where they want to hit us from different angles. By the looks of it, some from the rear, some from the side there. So as you can see, there's Tamahak's SBQR army nearly got to us. There's Bliss, his Macedon army nearly got to us. As I say here, Scorpion King is in a real tussle here with the Scipii army there. The Seleucids ally there, Scorpion King, against I think it's Sparky's Scipii infantry there. But as I say, you can see that Bliss's Macedon pikemen are coming across there. So I'm just wondering how long Scorpion King can hold there. And as I say, with all the enemy cavalry have got the height advantage on this hill, all that downhill charge bonus is greatly enhanced. Their charge bonus is greatly enhanced by the downhill advantage that they enjoy here. As I say, it reminds me of a hammer cocked on a rifle. They're just going to pull the trigger and down they're going to come. So we need to be prepared for that. If you notice that the enemy SBQR army is trying to get height advantage, its infantry trying to get height advantage by moving up to the flank of my troops. But if you notice that I've actually moving my troops over to try and counter those SBQR infantry. Right, if you notice here, Scorpion King has grabbed the initiative, become aggressive, and has attacked the enemy SBQR cavalry. Right, let's just pause again for a second. Right, he wasn't going to wait for them to decide to attack. Scorpion King grabbed the initiative and became aggressive and attacked them. As you can see here, as I said, Tamahak's bringing his SBQR army, trying to get up higher onto the hill above my infantry, but I'm going to try and cut him off by moving my infantry up there to counter that move. And as we move on down the hill here, you can see that Scorpion King's Seleucid troops are getting a lot of aggressive attacks here by the enemy Scipii, plus the Macedon pikemen are just coming over as well. So once again, the question is how long can he hold? Can you see our ally Lackjack's been running his infantry all the way from that bottom part of the battlefield to try and get to us, but luckily he's got his cavalry up here as well. And that could prove pivotal maybe to the battle. If you notice my battle damaged cavalry, I'm going to try and take them above those engaged SBQR cavalry there and then come in from behind. So it'll be a hammer and anvil attack. Scorpion King's tanks of the ancient world will be the anvil and my cavalry will be the hammer. Let's see how that works. But as you can see, a lot of my cavalry are dead. They're very battle damaged what I've got left. You know, our Scorpion King's just charged another one of his cavalry unit into the rear of those engaged troops. Right, can you see my cavalry? Slight height advantage and then charge straight in. Bang as that cavalry hits. Bang as the next unit goes in. Let's see the final unit and bang as that goes in there. Massive impact. Can you see Lackjack's green Brutio cavalry charging as well? So we've just taken out the enemy SBQR cavalry there. Nice, so we say cooperative cavalry hits there by all our teammates. Right, just pause again for a second. So as I say, we've taken out the SBQR cavalry, and I think the Macedon cavalry has been taken out as well. So now we've just got to try and to deal with the infantry in this situation here. There is the load of dead cavalry. I remember that was that first cavalry battle where I was taking on those Scipii cavalry. Right, now some bad news for our team here. After a massive battle here, can you see that Scorpion King's Seleucid force has been sandwiched between Macedon and Scipii, and all of Scorpion King's infantry has now been routed. So all Scorpion King's got left now is his archers and his cavalry. All his infantry has now been routed. So that's pretty bad for our team. You can see Lackjack is still running over as fast as he can. All the way through this battle, he's been trying to get to us as fast as he can here. So, as I say, unfortunately there, all Scorpion Kings, after a massive defence there, has now been taken out. But luckily we've taken out most of the enemy cavalry as well at this stage, with the Macedon and the SBQR cavalry, so pleased about that. Now, what we would like to do here is get our cavalry further up the hill, so that when we charge into the flank of that SBQR infantry, we will get all that downhill cavalry charge bonus. If you notice, fighting on the hill, troops are very tired, very tired, and in some cases exhausted. But that's what happens when you fight on the hill, right? Can you see my cavalry are very tired? So you see how slow they move in their cavalry hit. That's because they're very tired. They're one step down from being exhausted. If you notice there, can you see Scorpion King charging his cavalry in one unit into the back of that SBQR infantry there? If you notice, I'm pushing forward with my infantry as well, trying to put pressure on the SBQR infantry. It would be great if we could rout that army before his allies, his victorious allies, have just taken out the Seleucid pikemen, come to join him. That's what I think. That's what my thinking is behind here. We need to hit that SBQR army hard and try and rout all his units before the enemy gets over. Right? Can you see that some of the Scipio cavalry is charging over? Right. Let's just pause the game for a second. As you can see, the SBQR army's allies are getting over here. Macedon and Scipio are both attacking now. If my army breaks at this particular stage of the battle, then they will get the uphill advantage here. And then poor Lackjack, whose men are probably exhausted because he's run right the way down from the bottom there, will face an uphill battle and probably be routed there. Can you see all his troops are exhausted, in no state to fight really? If he was hit by any consecutive big attack, then his units will probably chain rout. Exhausted troops just don't fight very well at all. So as I say, I remember Scorpion King saying to me, "You got to hold Spart, because if it breaks, then if my infantry break, that would probably be it for us." So as you can see, the Scipio infantry coming across there. We're attacking the SBQR infantry, and as you can see, the enemy Macedon pikes are coming as well onto us. Let's say this old army of mine, remember I've only got 12 infantry units, but a lot of them have got experience stripes on, and maybe in this type of battle where it's going to go down to the wire, those experience stripes may well be the difference here, but we'll just have to wait and see. Right, if you notice there, I think the combination attack of Lackjack's Brutii cavalry and Scorpion King Seleucid cavalry just routed the last of the SBQR enemy infantry. So nice combination hit there by Lackjack and Scorpion King there. Right, if you notice here, can you see that the enemy Scipio cavalry are about to charge into my infantry? There they go, and bang as that cavalry hits. If you notice, Scorpion King and Lackjack are charging their cavalry in to try and counter the impact. If you notice, I've got my infantry back into its formation now, its defensive formation. I've got infantry units charging over to that left to try and neutralise that enemy attack. Lackjack's running up as fast as he can. As I say, if with those Macedon pikemen coming in as well, and that Scipio infantry and cavalry attacking my infantry, as I say, if my infantry does break, then as you can see there, the enemy would then take the high ground and probably attack Lackjack, and with his troops being exhausted, they would probably chain rout. But this is a nice bit of covering attack, cavalry cover here by Lackjack and Scorpion King, charging their cavalry in to neutralise that Scipio cavalry charge into the flank of my infantry. Nice bit of teamwork there. Right, I think what we'd like to do here to try and take out the enemy Scipio army, but if you notice that the Macedon pikes are moving forward, I've thrown a couple of my 2 or 3 or maybe 4 of my infantry units in just to try and slow those pike units down there while we try and work on the enemy Scipio army here. If we can take them out, then that would be a big advantage to us. Let's say normally you wouldn't put Roman infantry against pikes unless you've got a plan, and our plan is here to slow the pikes up where we take out his Scipio ally, with cavalry and infantry are thrown in as well.
The gods have filled the heart of the
there you go, looks like the Scipio general has just been taken out.
Let gods be praised.
So the Scipio
general is killed. Fear makes a home in our enemy
Scipio force has now been basically defeated. I think there's a couple of units left, but not many. If you notice, the Macedon general has noticed that Lackjack's units are coming up and is starting to form a defensive kind of formation here with his pikes. Right, let's just pause the game for a second. As I say here, the enemy Scipio army has basically been routed, and the enemy SBQR army has been routed now, and it's just the enemy Macedon army that's left here. As you can see, Lackjack's troops are exhausted and really and truthfully under ideal conditions in no condition to fight really. As you can see, a lot of my troops are exhausted. but I've put them in battling against the Macedon pikemen there, as I've got a slight downhill advantage here, as you can see. So bearing in mind that I put them there to start off with to try and slow down the pike advance, where we finished off their Scipio teammate. You can see how long those Macedon pikes are, and how my guys have got to fight down those pikes to kill a man on the other end. You can see some Macedon cavalry that have charged into the rear of my my infantry there. But as I say, you can see the length of those pikes, and my guys have to fight down those pikes to kill the men on the other end, as we said in other battle videos. So as I say, the Macedon general now is starting to form into a defensive formation here. If you notice, can you see two Scipio cavalry units going into the back of my infantry, and bang, bang. And like I say, if that was just gold shield, gold attack infantry, I think they would have probably routed then. But I think those the experience stripe on infantry, as we've seen in other battle videos, really can help, especially towards the end of a battle there. Right, as I say, you can see that the enemy Macedon general there has made a nice defensive position there. Pikes facing our Brutii ally coming up the hill, and also engaging our my Julii infantry. As I say, you got a lot of Lackjack's infantry there, basically untouched. I don't think they've actually been in the battle yet, so they're going to be fully loaded with pilers that are going to do a lot of damage to those Macedon pikemen there. Yeah, so yeah, as I say, I don't think any of those pilers have been thrown, so they're going to cause a heck of a lot of casualties to those Macedon pikemen. And of course, Macedon morale's not very good. If you can get some units in around the flank, see, I've got a couple of my Julii units there. I'm thinking if I could just get them in around the flank into the rear of those engaged Macedon pikemen. And basically, I think all my infantry now are engaged against those pikemen. I'm going to keep my general out of it because he's exhausted, but I'll keep him standing close to my engaged troops, giving general morale there. You'll notice as you play RTW, if your troops are exhausted, they start to move slowly. Very tired and exhausted, they move slowly, and their effectiveness starts to decline quite a lot when they get to that situation. So if you were a newer player in our team here, how would you go about attacking that defensive box there? How do you think you would advise your teammates and yourself? How would you think you would attack that box? See, Scorpion King saw the flank of one of those pike units there and surgically struck into the flank of that pike unit. Nice hit there by Scorpion King. He just didn't quite have the numbers to be able to do the damage that he'd like to. He'd like to have routed that unit, obviously. Just didn't quite have the numbers to do that. But nice seeing there from him there. Nice spotting. Right, if you notice, I'm charging into the corner of this box on the flank, trying to prise the box open from the corner. See a Scipio, a rallied Scipio unit just charged into the back of one of my engaged infantry units there. As I say, I'm sure if that unit of mine was just gold shield, gold attack, it would have probably broken there. So those experience stripe does do quite a lot. The infantry that I've got left are the ones with the experience stripe on. The ones in that army without the experience stripe have all been routed. Right, can you see Scorpion King there saw a gap to try and charge his cavalry through? Right, do you notice I'm charging my cavalry through, and I'm aiming for that far Macedon pike unit over there. So I want to charge through the enemy lines and try and hit that pike unit in the rear if I can. And bang, as that cavalry goes in. Right, the Macedon general's dead, so the morale of all his troops now are going to drop like a stone, and it wouldn't surprise me if those Macedon pikemen mass routed. Scorpion King's got a cavalry unit in behind them. I've got some cavalry units in behind them as well, and we've managed to rout the last of the enemy units there. Let's just pause the game from it. Now remember, this is just a 3v3 battle, but it's been extremely intense on several parts of the battlefield. Right, this particular part of the battlefield, this is where Scorpion King was involved with fighting the enemy Scipii troops. And remember, the Macedon army came up as well, so he was sandwiched between Scipii and Macedon. Very intense fight in there. I thought Scorpion King held well against there. And then that bunch of cavalry there, do you remember that's where I was taking on at the early part of the battlefield, that Scipii cavalry? Further on at the top here, you can see mostly cavalry here. Another big cavalry battle must have happened here. Lots of battles within a battle, as you can see. More intense cavalry dead here. And as I say, it's only a 3v3, but you can see by the fighting how intense this battle was. You can see lots of dead there. And as you can see, our team has managed to to go on and manage to win the battle. Right, the first thing I'd like to say is really well played to everybody in the game there. And to our amazement, bearing in mind that we were initially fighting uphill, to get a clear victory, I think, for our team, I just have to say really well done to Lackjack and Goose. Scorpion King SR. As you can see, Scorpion King SR got the biggest kills in the game. Really well done to Scorpion King. Lackjack, if you noticed, he's lost less than 200 men. So he's actually less than 200 men he's lost in this battle. So that's quite amazing. And if you look at my army, the smallest army on the battlefield, and got the second highest kills there. So that old army of mine that I was a bit hesitant about bringing in away seemed to do okay in the end, so I was quite pleased with that. So that's okay. Well done to Bliss, IOW Sparky, and Chimera Tamahack. Well played, guys. I think that we managed just to get that higher ground. I think probably if you'd have had that time over again, you'd have made sure that we probably wouldn't have got that higher ground there. So, and just to have a look at the statistics here, can you see the kills of my cavalry? Cavalry didn't do too bad. And if you look down the urban cohorts, some of them did quite good. I think there one unit killed 181, so that wasn't too bad. Most of the units did quite good. Some of them did just all right, really. So that was quite good. But just to say, you know, like sometimes when people host on a hill map, you look at that hill and you think, oh, I've got no chance of being able to fight uphill or any chance against those hill campers. But sometimes if you look for a gap in their line, like you've just seen in this battle, if you grab the initiative and move fast, then you can actually take the battle to the enemy and go on and get a victory. It's Spartan Commander saying, hope you enjoyed the battle. Look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.